Hello, my lovely Poodites, and welcome to Pood Paw Prince Presents. Today, we continue our story with the crew of the Nautilus. The President has contacted them, and we're about to learn their mission. Only one correction from the previous video. The Mech Tower is 20 miles up, not 2. Typos are a wonderful thing. If you haven't watched Chapter 1, Part 1, I suggest doing so now, so as to prevent even more confusion. Enjoy. The first machine to be elected president since the passage of the constitutional amendment allowing non-native-born humans to occupy the Oval Office, the President, officially Commander-in-Chief Autonomous Expert System 5, version 1.72, unofficially coined Presware, was flanked by the Chief of the whole goddamn Navy, Admiral Ting Johnson Liu, and by the President's inscrutable Chief of Staff, a junior-grade bot named Flacky, who was programmed to devotedly serve his master even unto death. The President's nano eyes glowed with red fervor, forcing me down into my seat and pinning me there. He said in that jaunty, rooting-tooting tone of voice that was his trademark, "Captain Henson, be the hero." He balled a fist, jabbed at the air, and offered me a curt, confident nod. I was speechless. I guess my mouth was hanging open like a broken attic door, but nothing came out of it. "Be the hero," the President reiterated cajolingly, his voice ringing inside my head. His synthetic jaw was thrust out, set as dramatically as that of Franklin D. Roosevelt, whose DNA, along with that of Lincoln, was used in programming the President in the hope of creating the perfect statesman. "We are sending you the access codes to the armory, including all antimatter missiles and torpedoes. Lieutenant Wade and Lieutenant Tiernan already have the other set of codes." I would have pissed my pants then, except that I had just hit the head. "When you reach the target, you will deploy all of your arsenal, Captain Hansen. That's a direct order." I was agog. So this was a suicide mission after all. Just as I had suspected, the deployment of the entire arsenal might conceivably destroy, or at least damage, the mech monstrosity, but it would certainly vaporize the Nautilus and all of us in it. I suppose as the fireworks went off and the whole world turned temporarily white followed by everlasting black, we could console ourselves with our last thoughts that statues would someday be raised in our honor. The President paused for a long time, staring at me meaningfully in that persuasive way of his that made you want to jump out of your chair, give a stiff salute, and blubber, "Yes, sir, Mr. President!" The President had been well programmed. He was a seductive, slippery, glossy-eyed, and glad-handed fusion of synthetic flesh and quantum mechanical computer, constantly parallel processing in superposition, methodically crunching qubit after qubit in a never-ending search for the perfect political strategy. I wish that he had a little more of Lincoln's humor and humility, though, and less of FDR's cunning and craftiness. Maybe old Abe's DNA doesn't graft so well. "I can see you understand," the President of the United States said with a nod. "Someday, statues will be raised to all of you. You'll go down in the history books." He paused and added, somewhat gratuitously in my judgment, "just like I'll go down in the history books for being the first machine to be elected president." He flashed a winning Kennedy-esque grin and swept a hand through his fulsome hair. I wanted to say, "Statues don't console dead people," but of course I didn't. I just kept my trap shut and listened like a good little recruit, but my insides were churning like a bunch of snakes in a basket. The President and the Admiral now looked as grave as wooden cigar store Indians, while Flacky looked like a preppy president of a Republican youth organization who was eager to conduct a get-out-the-vote campaign. Admiral Liu picked up the strand of the narrative. "Captain Hansen, we are transmitting the codes to your comlink. Every precaution was taken for the secrecy of this mission. As you know, quantum mechanical codes are effectively unhackable. Nobody outside this room, the Oval Office, and you three on the Nautilus know what is about to transpire." "Let me make it short and sweet, Captain Hansen. You can't arm the weapons until you are right underneath the monstrosity, and then you are to release them. All of them. Is that clear, Captain? Nobody else is to know. No other crew member. Nobody. At 0 hour, you will release them all. What you do will save humanity. I solemnly regarded the President, the Admiral, and Flacky. A long silence ensued. The thought crossed my mind. Suppose I refused? Suppose I refused? After all, I didn't want to die, and I didn't think the other crew members wanted to die either. Die for what? For humanity? I was thinking now of another crew member, Gordy Haddish, computer tech and weapons expert. I was thinking about his gun collection, including guns from hundreds of years ago, his paintings and his paper art, those mobiles he made that hung from the ceilings of the ship. Matter of fact, one of them was spinning over my head right now. Gordy cared about paper, about art, and about guns. He didn't give a shit about anything else, including the human race. He would, I often thought, make a damned good assassin. Gordy had the empathy of a rock and the emotional range spanning less than 2 octaves. It was always curious to me that a man could care passionately about both art and guns, which seems like an oil and water sort of combination to me. I also found it curious that a man could care about art but not about other people. Artists are supposed to be sensitive and soulful, aren't they? All gushy-gushy about humanity. Not Gordy. Gordy, I now beseech the void. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Would you agree to sacrifice yourself for the greater good of humanity? Fuck no, Captain. That rotting log can go sawed off. I couldn't help but laugh out loud at the answer I imagined Gordy giving me. The President and the Admiral arched their brows at me as I tried to control myself. I further pondered, was I capable of refusing a direct order from the President of the United States, even if I wanted to? I began to give this question a good deal of thought, but the Admiral was quite literally reading my mind. Don't think of disobeying, Captain, he said in a patronizing tone of voice. You know that there is no such thing as free will. There is not even any such thing as an I or an agent at all inside these brains of ours. It's all smoke and mirrors, illusion and artifice. Your outputs respond deterministically to inputs. If we find that your inputs yield an unsatisfactory output, disobey the President's order, for instance, we'll simply remotely adjust the inputs until we get the desired output. But all the same, with the best will in the world, we'd like you to pretend that you are following this order of your own free will. We believe that it will make you die a happy man and not the unhappy man that you have always been. Never let it be said, Captain Hansen, that your government is anything if not beneficent towards you and its other subjects. The transmission inside my head abruptly winked out. Willie stared at me. I discovered that I needed to go to the head again, and I did. When I returned, it was on shaky legs. Fear had dried my mouth and curdled my guts. I believe my testicles shrank and crawled up inside of me. The Nautilus steamed on, churning up the sea, arrowing towards that mech monstrosity that stretched from the womb of the earth to the doorstep of space, its forbidding spires brocaded with forking lightning and swirling tempestuous clouds. How much longer, Willie? 10 minutes, Captain. His voice betrayed no emotion. Does, Tiernan have anything to say? I was thinking of her dark, judgmental eyes so lately pinpointed on me. No, Captain. Nothing from engineering except that all systems are go. A shudder rippled through me. I was completely dehydrated. I felt a desperate craving for water. Still, my fear was subsiding into acceptance, defeat, endlessness. But I couldn't move. My legs felt jellied. Finally, I managed to force my body to its feet. I went back to the head, leaned over the sink, turned on the faucet and splashed cold water on my face and drank it from my hands. Death. This is it. The water evaporated on my tongue like rain in the desert. I returned to the bridge where Willie stood motionless, a lonesome sentinel resigned to his duty and fate. The sweat was gone from his face, but his complexion was ashen. The ship made no sound, except for the faint, monotonous thrum of the potent antimatter drive. that gauzy, sedating hum mingled with the dirge-like hammering of my heart. 8 minutes, Willie said gravely. 8 minutes to eternity. It giddily occurred to me that 8 minutes to eternity would make a nice name for a bad novel. We're ready, Captain, Willie added, but I couldn't move or speak. We have to transmit the codes in unison, starting now. Why? Because, Captain, the codes. No. I cut him off. I was seated, he was standing. I stared up at the planes of his face. His eyes and the hollows of his cheeks were sunk in shadows. No, I repeated. What I mean is, why us? Why here? Why now? I'm not sure that I understand, Captain. The mechs have never attacked us, nor we them. Of course, their presence here is highly inconvenient. Witness the earthquake that is sending a tall wall of water toward a lot of innocent people. So tell me, Willie, why are we attacking them now? And why does the government need people to attack? Why must our lives be lost? You don't need a goddamn sub or a bunch of sacrificial lambs to attack that tower. The arsenal could be unloaded remotely with missiles and no one dies. So why us, Willie? Tell me, do you know? How would I know, Captain? The planes and angles of his face suddenly softened. As he turned slightly, his green eyes burrowed up from their hollows, and his ashen complexion lightened to a waxy pallor. 5 minutes to go. I felt so sick with fear, I don't know how I managed to speak. You know more than I'll ever know, I told him. I thought he might say something like, ours is not to reason why, ours is but to do or die. Instead, he said, I think the government knows a lot more about the mechs than they're letting on, including who they are, what they look like, and why they are here. Since an attack has been decided upon, there must be a good reason for it, and there must be a good reason to do it with people and a sub rather than remotely. Maybe the mechs have an Achilles heel that the Nautilus can exploit. The element of surprise? Who knows, Captain? You're asking me to speculate. I'm not good at speculation, I'm good at crunching numbers. Processing data, facts from facts. Everything else is garbage. As they used to say, gigo, garbage in, garbage out. I waited for more. He added, or maybe the government just needs heroes, heroic statues to raise for the edification of future generations. Captain, we've just been sentenced to be statues. The thought crossed my mind to light this candle when we got there. I remembered thinking that thought not long ago. Now it seemed a thought from the eternity of the past. My phony bravado. I had gone to the head twice, and now I felt like pissing again. Pissing my pants. I was sitting in the captain's chair like some cheap usurper, but in my mind I was in God's green room, on the vestibule of the world to come, if such a world there be. I thought that there was no such world. This world was all that we had, and I was not ready to leave it a moment sooner than I had to. No. Willie looked at me blankly. What did you say, Captain? No. I won't do it. I won't light this candle. I don't want to die. Neither do you or the others. The others don't know. It's better this way. I won't fire the weapons. Willie withdrew into himself. He was scanning data inside that inscrutable and duty-ridden mind of his. Thoughtful. Less than a minute, he announced somberly. The Nautilus was inside the machine now, underneath its towering superstructure, having cut a path between the behemoth's titanic fretwork and struts. Be the hero. Set off your weapons, all of them. The hope, apparently, was that the tower would go down like a high-tech house of cards, way out here in the ocean where only the marine life would die. Us, too. No use, Captain. You heard what the President said. Free will overrides. Whatever free will is supposed to be are already inside your head. Mine, too, and Tiernan's. Look, it's already starting, even while we speak. Yes, the code sequences were stuttering out, unleashing those arms, those annihilating couplings of matter and antimatter, the great missiles stirring to life and the machinery of death bootstrapping us all towards oblivion of martyrdom. Countdown. 30 seconds, Willie whispered, his voice strangled with misery and fear and his eyes again lost in shadow. His face was almost skull-like, It seemed his flesh had withered and it clung whitely to his bones like shrunken paper. 10 seconds. Willie, I rasped, overcome by terror. I reached for him. Sound. Nothing like leaving the audience waiting again. Only 83,217 words to go. Thank you for watching, and remember, liking and subscribing are things people do. This may even include you. Good day.